Latanya Gator. I am one of 22 Wayne County Women's Commissioners, and I would love to say good evening again and thank you to this powerful and wonderful and beautiful group of women that I see here today. I'm also a child and family master's level psychologist. We welcome you all here in honor of Women's History Month and want you to receive what this knowledgeable and diverse group of mental health professionals have to offer. They will offer you education and support tips so you can continue to grow and heal yourselves while continuing to provide support and care to those you love as we all continue to recover from COVID-19. This summit will be recorded and posted on the Wayne County Commission's website, as well as on other social media platforms, so there is no need to take notes. Thank you to the Wayne County Commission and Chairwoman, Wayne County Commission Alicia Bell. We thank you to the Wayne County Women's Commission, and especially the Wayne County Commission Mental Health Subcommittee for joining us today. Please wave if there are any commissioners, which I see a bunch of you on the Zoom call today. Please wave to the participants. And would any Wayne County Commissioner or Wayne County Women's Commissioner have a brief statement to make today?
I will let our Madam Chair go first.
Oh, hello. And I apologize, I can't see myself, so I think I'm looking correctly at the screen. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So wonderful for all of you to join us here for this very important My Struggle is Your Struggle Mental Health Symposium. I am so proud of the work that the newly formed Wayne County Commission Women's Committee have done in their just short period of time in existence. It's been just about a year, not even a year yet, and they have done phenomenally making sure that they are addressing issues pertinent to women in Wayne County. This symposium today, I think we all can agree, is so very important as we discuss our mental health through the pandemic and beyond. I mean, our mental health is something that's been an issue for many of us for a long time. I think the pandemic just heightened it. And the information that we're going to discuss today and the wonderful presentation that we're going to discuss today will certainly help many of us cope through all of the things that we have to deal with as women, our families, our careers, our children, our parents, all of that, and trying to have a good balance, making sure that we are first safe and we are first healed before we can assist and help others. So thank you so much, Ms. Gator, for this awesome opportunity. I'm not sure if the chair of the Women's Commission, Ms. Carter, is on the line yet, but I am just so thankful for all of the hard work that the ladies have done to put this together. And I look forward to this dynamic discussion that we're going to hear tonight. Thank you all so much. And I look forward to seeing you all in person, hopefully one day soon. Take care now.
Thank you, Chairwoman Bell. We do have Commission Chair, Mrs. Carter, on the line. Would you like to say something?
Yes, good evening to everyone. And thank you for joining us this evening for a very, very important cause that we are always wanting to blow that trumpet and let everyone know that there is help out here. And I'm so happy that they have chosen this subject because it is one that is burning in our communities. And I'm so glad that we are things that happen under the leadership of you, Latanya Gator, and as well as your entire committee. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Carter. Is there any other commissioner of either body on the line who would like to make a brief statement?
I don't want to take up too much time, but my name is Melissa Daub. I'm a Wayne County Commissioner and also a Wayne County Women's Commissioner and on the Mental Health Committee. Just want to welcome everyone to be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Daub, and thank you so much for your support. I would like to introduce our panelists this evening. We have panelist Michelle D. Clark, LMSW. Please wave for the participants, Ms. Clark. We have Batul Mcgee. We have Xena Musa, LLPC. We have Kiana Mcgee Houston, LPC, NCC, and CCTP. Again, thank you so much to this panelist group for joining us in this very important and vital work. We look forward to the education and support that you're offering today. I do have a few housekeeping rules for us to mind. Please keep your devices muted at all times. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave your messages in the chat. We will be sure to address them during the Q&A segment. Also in the chat, you'll find a link to the Q&A form if you have a question and you want it to be in confidence and you would like for one of the panelists to get back to you individually. We'll also have an exit survey link in the chat because we need to know your feedback so we can continue growing this in the best way possible. Lastly, we will have a link that includes a comprehensive list of mental health agencies for your usage. That list will include community mental health resource agencies, private practice agencies, self-help and support groups, as well as crisis hospitalization services. Without further ado, please welcome our first panelist, Michelle D. Clark, who will be speaking to us about women empowerment, trauma, divorce, and domestic violence. Ms. Clark, you are up next.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I will go ahead and start sharing the slides first, just so we can have that first slide up there. One moment.
Thank you.
And there we go. All right, can everyone see the slides before we get started? Ms. Gaynor, can you all see the slides?
No.
No.
Okay, I am sharing.
Okay. I think you might have to stop sharing for, oh, here we go.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, how about now?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome sauce. Yes, all right, we got it. All right, first of all, welcome everybody for coming out. And thank you so much for the Wayne County Women's Commission for inviting me to be one of the panelists. And thank you for all the commissioners and the chairwomen for coming out this evening as well. Thank you so much. So before we get started, first of all, my name is Michelle D. Clark. And, you know, I'm just a simple girl, small town, you know, who had big hopes and big dreams. And I'm just so happy and grateful that God spared me in order to empower other women. And I'm actually from a small town called Harvey, Illinois. Now, you may not know that Harvey it's like a suburb off of the south side of Chicago, but you definitely do not have to be a reporter on America's Most Wanted to know that how Chicago got its nickname Chirac. But instead of taking the route of thugging and drugging and dope dealing, I decided to become a hope dealer. So I help to empower women with hope through my company, Lift Life Coaching Solutions, as well as Lift Nation. And with that, it is my goal to be the Harriet Tubman of authenticity, to be able to help women to break stereotypes, bust through glass ceilings, and live their full potential. And so some of my credentials are, first of all, I'm a mother, first and foremost. And in addition to that, I am trauma trained. I have a license in social work. I have my bachelor's in psychology, my master's in social work, and I also have my PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. So that's all about me. You know, I don't want to spend this whole time talking about me. What I like to do is I like to get to know a few of you all. Now, I'm not able to see people in gallery view. So I don't know if that's something that we need to do on my end. Okay.
I do believe so, Ms. Clark.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there's the people. Yay. Hey. Awesome sauce. Okay, cool beans. So I want you all to play along with me because I want to know a little bit about you all. Now, you can just do this inside, you know, your head, or you just give me a head nod, but just kind of play along with me now. So I'm going to ask some questions, and if it applies, you can go ahead and give me a head nod, thumbs up. You can use emojis, all the wonderful things that we have with Zoom. So if any of these things have ever happened to you or someone you know, then go ahead and give a head nod. So has anybody in here been married? Has anybody in here been divorced? Has anybody in here had children? Has anybody in here had children with special needs? Has anyone ever had a relationship that may have involved domestic violence? Has anyone or anyone you know ever had a brush with the law where they may have been incarcerated or taken to jail or arrested? Has anyone you ever known ever had a traumatic experience? Has anyone you ever know ever had a serious critical illness that almost claimed their life? Has anyone you ever known ever had a bad decision, just made a bad decision that changed the whole trajectory of their life? Well, I'm gonna tell you what, if you nodded and you know someone who has, and if you were thinking to yourself, not only do I know somebody, that person was me, that's who I was talking about, then guess what? You're not alone, because every single thing that I said on that list, everything, you all, I have experienced. Yes, I've had 2 strokes. I've had cancer, stage 2 breast cancer. I had to have a mastectomy. I had to have reconstruction surgery. I went through a divorce. I went through a lot of different things. So truly, my struggle is your struggle. All right. So today, I want to share with you all some objectives here. We're going to identify some common warning signs of mental unwellness and illness. I want to discuss with us the impact of the pandemic on contextual factors like mental health, divorce rates, domestic violence, along with medical trauma. I want to explore the impact of past trauma on present behaviors. I also want to talk about 5 key steps to empower women to live inspired, free, and transformed. So what does mental health look like? You know, I asked this question because I had a friend of mine and we were talking, and she was on medical leave from work because she was going through a lot of stressors. She had a lot of stressors in her life. And someone said to her, well, you know, you don't look like you should be on a medical leave. You don't look like you have a mental illness. So what is that supposed to look like? And some people think that in order to have a mental illness, that you should have to exhibit severe symptoms. Well, guess what? That's a myth. It's not true. As a matter of fact, according to SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, AMIs, which is any mental illness, it can range from mild, moderate to serious. So any walk of those lives, anybody in here, including myself, could have an AMI. So these are some common warning signs in here that talks about what does mental unwellness, quote unquote, look like. I like to say, what does it feel like? So if you feel sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, you could have an AMI. If you have thoughts or plans of harming or killing yourself, or if you have any drastic changes in your moods, extreme difficulty concentrating and focusing, if you have fears or worries that just come out of nowhere and you're feeling that like every single day, severe and out of control risk-taking behaviors that may cause harm to yourself or others, sudden overwhelming fear, maybe your heart racing, maybe your thoughts are racing, maybe you're having problems with breathing, you may have significant weight loss or weight gain, you may have appetite disturbances, sleep disturbances, hearing voices or seeing things that nobody else is able to hear or see, or using excessive alcohol or drugs. Those could be common warning signs of mental unwellness. Now, let's talk about how the pandemic played an impact on mental unwellness. So if you see here on this graph that there was like a steady rate of mental health services, people seeking them and experiencing symptoms. But then as you got towards the pandemic, you see that there's a huge increase, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense because of a lot of the trauma that people were experiencing. So in here, it states that 21% of adults experienced some sort of AMI in 2020. That's 52.9 million people. So all these nice little Hollywood squares y'all see right here, everybody look to the right, look to the left. 1 out of 5 adults have experienced an AMI. Now in 2021, it talks about that there was 19% as compared to 21% And they talked about, it's about equivalent to about 47 million people. Now you might say to yourself, well, how did it go down? Well, first of all, we were starting to somewhat have more of an idea of what was happening with COVID, but we also have to realize that there were so many deaths, horrific amount of deaths that could have played an impact on those numbers. And again, this is what's reported. So we generally typically say that whatever's reported, you can estimate that it's higher than that. The other thing that was, other people, I should say, that was impacted in the COVID-19 were our youth. Our youth suffered a lot, more than any other age group that score for moderate or severe symptoms of anxiety and depression. There were also noticeable differences in the rate of anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation between races and ethnicity. Some of the highest numbers were African-American, Pacific Islanders and Asians, and also Native Americans. In Wayne County alone, those numbers that we normally would have seen, they nearly doubled more than what we would have expected prior to the pandemic. So you can take a look at those numbers. And some of the reasons why people were really having some challenges with the pandemic is because the loss of social interactions. So we talk about the divorce rate. People were stuck at home. Not only that, now their kids were out from school and now they had to become not only their parent, but now they're their teacher. And I don't know about you all, but I don't remember half of the stuff that I learned back in high school. I'm talking about geometry and trigonometry. Sounds all good, but getting back into that, it's very difficult. And a lot of the materials that I researched stated that women, more than more than males, were the ones who had to take on the brunt of that, being the caregiver, but now also taking on the role of the teachers and any other kind of physical illnesses that may have happened. And so it was just really weighed down on us as women. And as a matter of fact, by April of 2020, the divorce rate increased by 34%. 34%. And that was 2022. And newer couples are the ones who suffered the most. Around 2021, 7% of divorcing Americans, they didn't even stand a month of marriage. Again, we fall in love, we have these ideas, and then out of nowhere, we're cooped up. We're not able to do the things that bring us joy. And then we start to nag at each other. And the next thing you know, we're filing for divorce, or at least inquiring about it. So we talked about in 2020, how there was a nearly 21% increase in divorce agreements initiated by couples, triggered by the pandemic. And not only did the pandemic negatively impact divorce rates, but there also was an increase of domestic violence. So according to the American Journal of Emergency Medicine, domestic violence cases increased by 25 to 33% globally. Globally. In Michigan, 41.8% of women and 23% of men experienced it. In 2020 of March, domestic violence reports in Metro Detroit increased by 35%. Now, medical trauma. Medical trauma was also impacted. So medical trauma is defined as a set of psychological or physiological responses to pain, injury, some serious illnesses. Now, for myself, I told you all that I had 2 strokes and I also had cancer. Now, although I had experienced trauma based on my medical condition, medical trauma is more of having that fear because of a procedure that you've had. So I didn't experience that personally, but I do want to stop and talk about my son real quick. So my son, he has special needs, he has cerebral palsy. And with that, he has to have a button change because he doesn't swallow. He doesn't walk with a gait like me and you. He also is not able to speak like you and I. He does have his own little way of speaking, but not like you and I. So he doesn't swallow, so he has a feeding tube of a button that goes in there. And every so often he has to have that button changed. Well, during one of the procedures, it was very painful to him. And when it came out, it was traumatizing for him. So now whenever he sees a medical professional, he starts to shake and he becomes fearful. and I have to reassure him and help him. I have to hold his hand, or I have to assuage him in some sort of way to help him to calm down. And that's not even when we're seeing the GI doctors. That's any doctor now, any kind of professional that has the mask on now. And imagine how that looks now when everybody is wearing masks. And so just think about how not just my son, but other children and other individuals have been impacted by medical trauma. In here, it talks about how medical trauma, you can see that any of these kind of conditions could result in medical trauma because they have some sort of procedures that they have to go to see a medical professional, which could result in them being traumatized. Next slide. So here, I want to talk about the impact of past traumas on present behaviors. So what I didn't tell you all earlier is that with the time that I was going through all of those things that we talked about at the beginning. Remember when I asked you all if you or somebody you know has ever experienced any of those things? And I said, yeah, I've experienced every last one of those things on that list. I want to take a couple of steps back, and I want to let you know what happened that culminated in order for me to go down that pathway. You see, when I was 14 years old, you know, I thought I was invincible. I mean, I think most people in here would feel that 14-year-olds feel that they're invincible. And I felt that way all the way up until the point when I was raped by a 19-year-old. And see, what he didn't realize is that not only did he steal my virginity, but he stole my self-identity. I didn't know who I was anymore, y'all. I felt dirty and tainted and disgusting and vile. I felt like something to just be used up and thrown away. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to do something to break that cycle of negative self-degradation and low self-esteem. I had to put in the work. And I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And I'm gonna get into some of those strategies when we talk about a little bit more about what was going on in my mindset. So see, y'all, the reason I was behaving that way is something that I call schemas. We call schemas as mental health professionals. Now, schemas, basically, the way I like to look at it is, it's like a filing system. It's how we categorize information so that way we can encode it and recall it. And so that way when we're experiencing new events, we have some place to file it and put it. Now, see, sometimes that's good because it takes off the learning curve. In some ways, it's bad because things that shouldn't stick sometimes do. So I don't know about you all, but I always like to bring things to life. So I want to do like a little illustration. So let's say that schemas are like theme songs. So let's say, I don't know if y'all remember, I'm a little old school, but if y'all remember Aaliyah, Rock the Boat. Rock the boat, work the middle, change positions, hey. That's my jam. So with Aaliyah, Rock the Boat, let's say that that's the song the DJ puts on. Now, he could probably mix something in like, who do you love? Is it him or me? That goes with rock the boat, doesn't it? Yeah, that goes. Now, what's the DJ trying to put something in like, like a rock song? Would that mix with rock the boat? I would say not. So what happens is anything that was good that was happening to me because of the way I felt about myself, I was discarding it. I wasn't allowing it to mix in. The DJ, we were throwing that out. But all the things that were negative, all the people that I started associating that were negative started to stick to me. Ficky. The DJ mixed it in. And that's what was happening to my brain, y'all. So I had to do some things. To get out of that. And so what I did, I want to show you all 5 key steps that I did and that can empower you as well to live inspired, free, and transform. So the first thing I did, y'all ready? Y'all ready? Get ready. Here it comes. The first thing I did was breathe. I just had to stop to breathe. See, sometimes we forget that. There's so much that's going on in the world around us. There's so much that's going on in our households that we sometimes forget to breathe. And I'm going to tell you what, when I started to utilize breathing, even my daughter, when she was younger, she would come up to me, and if I was going through some sort of stressful situation, and I would just go, She'd be like, wait, Mom, what's going on? Are you okay? Like, was it me? I'm like, no, girl. No, I just had some things that were going on. I just need to take a quick breather so I can regulate my emotions. And she's like, okay. And then she'd go on playing. So breathing really helps. And not only that, physiologically, it helps us because what we're trying to do when we're breathing, and that's from the diaphragmatic breathing is what we want to do from here, from our stomachs, not from our chest. And so when we breathe in deep, your stomach should actually extend and then contract. And when you breathe, you want to breathe out. You want to breathe in through your nose, 4 counts, and breathe out through your mouth, 5 counts. I would love to practice that with you all today. So let's just take a quick moment and let's do that. So we're going to breathe in together. All right, everybody, let's go. Oh, that was so relaxing. And the purpose of that is so that way we can mimic a calm state. It's to slow down our heart rate and also give our brains more oxygen to be able to think more clearly. So the first step is to breathe. The second step to empower ourselves to live inspired, free, and transform is our support systems. We have to have support systems. We have to surround ourselves with people who are rooting for us, who want us to win. And in addition to that, support systems could include mental health therapists, ding, like myself. Yes, and guess what? I got mental health services. That's one of the things that I had to do to get out of what I call stinking thinking, or what we call negative schemas, and having those negative automatic thoughts that come into our mind over and over and over that we don't want to have, or flooding that can happen to us when we've been traumatized. We need to sometimes reach out and get professional help. And that's exactly what I did. I also surrounded myself with my family members, and they rallied around me. I surrounded myself with my friends, and I also surrounded myself with other kinds of clubs and groups that help to uplift me and help me to feel positive. So that's the second thing that we can do to empower ourselves to live inspired, free, and transformed. The third thing is affirmations. Now, okay, I know some people out there might be like, oh, here she goes with affirmations. I am somebody. This is some BS. And guess what? If you said that, if you were thinking this is some BS, you're absolutely correct. Belief systems. It is our belief systems. It's what we believe. See, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing, because our perceptions can color what we see. It's like a lens that goes over our eyes. So yes, affirmations, they do work. I am loved. I'm encouraged. I'm strong. I'm beautiful. I'm blessed. I'm so happy and grateful today that I'm able to pay my bills. I'm so happy and grateful today that I have my kids who made it through the pandemic. I'm so happy and grateful today that I have a home, a roof over my head. We don't have to go far and wide to think about the things. As a matter of fact, one thing I would like to do is, in the next step here, I want to talk about gratitude, y'all. An attitude of gratitude. So you see, that's the fourth thing that we can do to empower ourselves in order to live this inspired, free, and transformed life. So attitude of gratitude. This is how this works. Let's just say that there's a woman and she's driving a Ford. I have a Ford, by the way. And she looks over and she sees somebody driving a Bugatti. Now she might say to herself, man, I sure wish I had that Bugatti. And then on the side of her, there's somebody who's riding a bike. And they say, man, I sure wish I had a car. And then there's somebody next to the lady riding the bike, and she's walking and she's like, man, I sure wish I had a bike. And then up in the balcony, looking down on everything happening, there's a woman who's in a wheelchair. And she's saying, boy, I sure wish I could walk. So you see, no matter where you are in life, there's always somebody out there who has it worse than you. So we have to be grateful for the things that we do have, and sometimes grateful for some of the things that we don't have that are kept out of our life. An attitude of gratitude, and that will attract more of the like. Attitude of gratitude. Now, ladies, the fifth and final step in order to assist us to live this empowered and inspired life lessons. We have to understand that everything that happens to us is not for us. It's for us to learn a life lesson. So the things that are hurting you, see, when we want to look for our purpose, look for those life lessons. I call it your why. WHY, what's hurting you? Whatever is hurting you, whatever that pain is, you want to reach down and figure it out, turn it around, turn it into something positive, and reach back and help somebody else. Each one, reach one, teach one. So it's important for us to learn, what is the lesson in this? Yes, it's raining, it's a cloud, but where's the silver lining? Learn the lesson so that way we can turn around and help someone else. So whenever you're going through something, say to yourself, "Ooh, child, this is hard, but let me tell you something. I know there's got to be a lesson in there." And then figure it out so that way you can turn it around and now you can make it into something positive and help someone else. Now, before I go, I do want to give you all one other golden nugget. I got to give you all a golden nugget. And that is, don't wait. Don't wait until the last straw to get help. You see, from the time of me being 14 years old to the time where I went through my divorce, which then triggered me into having 2 strokes, and then a year later having stage 2 breast cancer, trying to recover from that, and then the pandemic, all this stuff happening. Between that time and me saying, you know what, it's time for me to get rid of my stinking thinking and let's move out of here, 25 years passed. 25 years. Now, I'm a little bit older than that now, but the bottom line is, I don't want that for you. I don't want you all to have to go through all of this in order to be empowered to live that inspired life, that freedom, that transformed life that you deserve. So please, if you know someone who needs help, encourage them. And if it's you yourself, there's nothing wrong with getting help. As a matter of fact, there's strength in being vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I need help, and I need help today. So I want to thank you all so much. Thank you so much for taking part, signing up, signing in, and spending your time with us today. And before you leave, what I would like to do is, I'm going to put everybody on a wheel of names. So I want you all to enter into my free book giveaway. And one of the books that I have is called Hush, Breaking the Cycle of Silence Around Sexual Abuse. I was one of the contributing authors to the book. And if you go to my website, click on michelledclark.com. And as a matter of fact, it's right there on the bulletin here, and /contact, complete the form. And once you complete that form, it will send me an email. And then I will put your name into the drawing of the wheel of names, and you will have an opportunity to win that free book, and we'll ship it out to you. In addition to that, just for completing the form, you are already entitled to have a no cost 20-minute consultation and exploration with me, Michelle D. Clark. So I thank you all so much. It's going to be so much more fabulous information that's coming our way. And I look forward to working with you all and hearing all the wonderful stories that we'll have coming hereafter. And again, you all, my name is Michelle D. Clark with Lift Nation, where we empower women to live inspired, free, and transform. Take care. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle D. Clark, for such lovely and well-needed information. Next, we have our panelists, Ms. Xena Musa, who will be speaking about grief and loss and accessibility to mental health services.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to share my screen first. Everybody sees it good?
Yes.
Welcome. All right, welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time, and I appreciate being invited to this. And thank you, Michelle. Beautifully said. Very inspirational. My name is Xena Musa. I'm an outreach specialist with the Stay Well Grant Program with the state of Michigan. I'm also a limited licensed professional counselor in the state of Michigan. Today, what we're going to focus on, so with the Stay Well Grant Program, we'll be working on groups, and the focus is grief, with the coping with the grief and loss is a workshop based on due to the COVID-19. And I brought that here with a little adjustment. The introduction will be, the agenda is introduction, the Stay Well overview, what we have, things you can sign up for, and our services. So before we begin, so I'd like to share a little information about the Stay Well Grant Program that is bringing you today's series. The Stay Well Grant Program is a free service in place for Michiganders who have or are experiencing distress, anxiety as a result of the COVID-19. who have, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. These feelings can come from grief, and we want you to know that we're here to support you, that you are not alone in your process. We have counselors that are available 24/7, 7 days a week, ready to listen. It's confidential, it's free, you don't have to give any information, no insurance, and anyone can connect with us. And the number is listed as you see it, and they're gonna put it in the chat room, the 1-888-535-6136, and you press 8. And the website, I really advise everyone to just take a minute and visit the website. We have beautiful things going on over there. We put together a program called Cultivating Art, Cultivating Joy, which art is a nice one too, but Cultivating Joy, and it's pre-recorded, and you just share them with everyone, and they're cartoons. And we worked so hard on them. I put the 10 activities with joy, so you can grab them and you share them with people. They're just uplifting, and I feel like this is the good time to start sharing with people. And that way, as the weather changes and our whole environment is changing. All right. All right, so when we talk about mental health, when we talk about our well-being, we have to focus that it's more than that, right? There is many parts to us, what is called the 7 dimensions of health. And sorry, I lost my slide, I apologize. Okay, so while the concept of wellness is often revolves around the physical and mental well-being, wellness experts understand that there's much more to that. There are 7 dimensions of wellness that contribute to our overall health and the quality of life. And what that means is, in order for me to live a healthy, functioning life, I have to address all 7 parts of me, and that is the physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, environmental, social, and occupation. And it's the balance of between each part of us. And the more we learn that when we balance these part of us that we're able to cope better. That when problems do occur, which they usually will, we're able to address them in a healthy way where to the best of our ability. And since the COVID-19 pandemic started, you may have experienced many different types of moods and feelings, which is also normal. Anxiety and depression during the past 2 years have been, many of us have gone through them. So that is a normal feeling. That is a normal thing that we've all gone through, and moods matter. Your mental well-being is just as important as your physical well-being. And since the COVID-19, we've noticed that how important our mental health, because a lot of us, as I'm sure you guys have heard, that we've neglected our mental health for so long. And when the COVID-19 started, it amplified, it got bigger and stronger. And at times our emotions change. Sometimes we have positive feelings such as joy, happiness, and excitement, right? And other times we may feel the negative feelings of such as stress, sadness, guilt, worry, and so on. And these kind of changes have happened to all of us. And it's important to recognize, to normalize your feelings, to normalize your emotion, to normalize what you're going through. And the idea is, when I normalize, when I validate my feelings, as I'm grieving, as I'm processing things, I will be in a stronger state. I will be able to address things in a healthier way in the long run. And the idea with grief, right? So now comes along grief and emotions. When grief comes along, the emotions of grief will come with it too. And sometimes they're stronger, right? They're mixed with depression, anxiety, and grief. And the more you validate your feeling, sometimes it hurts and it's complicated, yes. But ultimately what we've learned in the long run, it ends up to be healthier. And this is mental health, right? Experiencing one, and this is just to be mindful of the symptoms. As mental health professionals, we look at symptoms and we address how many symptoms and what you might be processing. And then we address the treatment to address these symptoms. So the more symptoms you recognize, that means you take that step back and say, okay, what support do I need? What do I need to do? If I recognize I have 7 out of the 10 symptoms, and these are just some of them, take a step and say, okay, what do I need to do? And so if you're experiencing one or more of the following feelings or behavior, can be an early warning sign of a problem or situation. And the idea is same thing, validating what I'm going through and then putting my next step of what do I need to do? One of them, you can connect with us, the Stay Well Counseling Hotline. Others, you can connect with your primary care doctor, you can connect with, and they have a whole list of professionals that you can connect with. And then this one, to recognize the symptoms of grief. And sometimes grief and depression, they do look alike. They can mimic each other. And this is just some of them. The lack of energy, motivation, and interest may be hard to find, change in sleep, difficulty getting out of bed. And this is more than just I'm feeling lazy. So remind yourself, if some of these symptoms, you're recognizing them, you're not being lazy, you're not wanting to do things. It really is your body is trying to connect with you, talk to you, and trying to tell you, pay attention to me, something is happening. And these are just some of the symptoms. So recognizing is number one, and then getting the plan together. What do I need to do? And this is just an image that I got from, I'm sorry, I wrote the source. Oh, yes, it's Nexon.com, and I liked it. And I just thought it puts the grief cycle so well. These are just the grief cycle, just to give you an overview when it comes to grief cycle, what you might be going through, the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance, that these are just some of the cycles that we might go through. And yes, it is normal to be in multiple cycles. And then with COVID-19, what we've been learning is people have been going through multiple layers of grief. So they might be grieving for a loved one, and then they're grieving within a week, they're having to grieve with another one. And then of course, we know as when we grieve for someone, all the past might come up. So a lot of people are grieving in multiple layers. So the idea is be compassionate, be loving towards yourself, be kind to yourself, that if you are seeing some of this stuff, that it is a part of the process. And trust the process, trust your body, that when it needs to rest, let it rest. You know, have empathy, that if I can only do 3 things out of the 10 things today, make it, that's okay, you know? So give yourself that. And the idea is, yes, this is one of my favorite. It's understandable not to feel okay right now. It really is. We have to be understanding towards ourselves and tell ourselves that it's understandable if I'm not doing everything I need to do. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try my best, and then put value, set your values. What are my values? What do I need? What's important to me? Like, these are the 3 things I need to get done, instead of just making a list of too much. And then just recognizing, what does good mental health allow you to do? When you recognize mental health, we all go through some kind of difficulty, situation, anxiety, depression. It is a part of us. And it's about recognizing my symptoms, tracking them. If you want, you can track them, write them down, and you take them with you. And that way you can see what's going on. What am I going through? What's happening with me physically, mentally, and emotionally? And when you have a good state of mind, you'll be able to cope with stress, recognize your full potential, bring your best self, develop coping skills and more. And then you'll be able, of course, to trust your grieving process, that what I'm going through is normal. It's healthy. My body is trying to make sense. My body and mind are trying to make sense of the loss. And then, of course, we know with women and women of race, different race, we have a different ethnicity. We have barriers, right? So barriers to mental health that we've witnessed are the social stigma of seeking mental health, transportation, lack of insurance, cost, and language. But I want everybody to know, be mindful of, don't allow the barriers to not let you go get support. Almost everybody I know will have some kind of translator, will figure out to get you a translator, or get you a mental health that will speak your own language. We don't just let people, I don't have somebody, we just let them go. We'll figure out a way to get you the support you need. So just connect with your primary care doctor, connect with us on the Stay Well Grant Program. And we have translators already at hand, many different languages. So that is available. And it's no cost to you. All right. And then another important thing during the COVID-19, we've learned, we knew this in the past, but I think we found it that it's really important for our state of mind during our grief, during our process as things have changed, that staying connected to those around you. It is another important thing, and that is a part of building a support system. It is good to build a support system, know who your support is, and make a list, write phone numbers, give it to your kids. Your kids should know, if I'm having a bad day, who do I connect with if I can't connect with you? And that way you give them control, that if you can't talk to me, you have your aunt, you have your teacher, you have your social worker, and that will give them also the same safety as we want. Our support system. So put together, who is your support system? And your support system can be anyone you value. So we can be your support system, the Stay Well counselors, family and friends, pets, co-workers, friends, social media, depending, with a little control, right? Neighbors, schools, teachers, outreach program within your area, your community, your church, your mosque, whatever you connect with, put it a part of your support system. And if no phone numbers are available, put them also. It just helps. All right, thank you so much. And if you need anything, please, you can connect with me, Xena Musa, an outreach specialist, and that is my email. If anything you need, you can connect with me. And if you get a chance, visit the website, share the information, share our phone number. We just don't know who might need this information. So the more you share, the better it is. And if you visit our website, you can also, I wanted to mention, you can order pamphlets, things you can order for your office, for your family, for your schools, and it's all for free. And we send it out to you for free. And if you connect, just ask on the email. We're a very small group, so we're all working on this group, on this program together. So you'll connect directly with me. And in that in mind, I also run the grief and loss workshops each Monday. And then again, if you visit the website, you'll see my webinars and my grief and loss Mondays from 12 to 1. And then the second one each Wednesday from, my goodness, my brain went pause. Okay, Monday it's at 6 to 7. I apologize. And Wednesdays is the one from 12 to 1. And then I also have the children one, parents and kids, and we work together on just feelings and activities. It's another great program, and that runs from 6:30 to 7:30 on Wednesdays. And then the upcoming events that are coming up are also on our website. And I'm also going to start out the teen group, and the teen group is going to focus on just emotion, their well-being, what they've gone through, and what support they need from us, and hopefully to gain more control. So anything you need, just visit the website, and you can register for all of this.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Xena Musa. Well received, great information. Thank you so much. Next, we have Mcgee. She's going to share some information regarding substance abuse as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mrs. Mcgee, you're up next. You are muted.
Unmute. Okay, there we go. Yay.
We gotcha. Thank you.
We got it. Okay, thank you all. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I would like to thank the Wayne County Women's Commission for hosting this very important discussion. It is much needed. Like Michelle stated, we are all going through something, and I believe that we can all lean on each other for support, and what a better way to do so than having an event like this. So my name is Mcgee. I received my bachelor's degree from the University of Detroit Mercy with a major in addiction studies. I'm currently a graduate student at the University of Michigan, where I am pursuing my master's of science in psychology. I wanted to tackle addiction within my community because I felt that it was a very stigmatized topic, as it is in almost every single community, but within the Arab American community, there's an extra added layer of taboo and stigma. And so one day when I was when I decided to go back to school and pursue a higher level of education, I thought to myself, well, I experienced domestic violence and I felt very isolated and alone and misunderstood. I can only imagine what it must feel like for someone with a substance use disorder. And so when I began to explore programs, I discovered the program at the University of Detroit, and I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. So starting off with 0 college credits at the age of 28, I was like, this is the course that I'm going to take. And sure enough, that is the course that I took. And this is where I'm at today. So within my culture, within the city of Dearborn, I have become some type of almost a community liaison, you can almost say. So when people think of addiction, they think, okay, Batul Mcgee. And you might ask why. Well, it's because I speak the language fluently. And I decided to use tools such as Facebook and Instagram and social media and talk about the disease of addiction and talk about it in my native language, which is Arabic. And so I was able to reach a huge population, and my videos even like went viral. One time I had people calling me from like Europe. But it was really cool. And I was like, wow, this is working. And so I used it as a stepping stone to deliver the message that addiction is a disease. And I wanted to change the way that we talked about the disease of addiction within my community. So substance use disorder defined is a complex condition in which there is an uncontrolled use of a substance despite the harmful consequences.
Pardon me, Ms. Mcgee.
Yes.
Would you like to screen share your Zoom presentation?
Am I not Zoom sharing it?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. Let me. Do I just hit share?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. I don't believe I know how to share it. Is it okay if you share it for me?
I sure can. Please give me 1 second.
Thank you so much, Latanya.
You are welcome.
I'm not that tech savvy.
No problem at all.
Thank you. Awesome. So, substance use disorder defined: complex condition in which there is an uncontrolled use of a substance despite harmful consequences. And this is so very true. Oftentimes we see individuals where they've lost their job, they've lost their homes, they've lost their children, and yet they are unable to stop using a substance, which speaks to the disease of addiction and how it really alters someone's brain chemistry. So is substance use a disease? Addiction is defined as a disease by most medical associations, including the American Medical Association and the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, addiction is caused by a combination of behavioral, psychological, environmental, and biological factors. So here's a fun fact that a lot of people don't know and that I really wanted to share with our listeners, that addiction is in fact a disease. And in 1956, the AMA declared alcoholism as an illness. And in 1987, the AMA and other organizations officially termed addiction as a disease. And so oftentimes when we think of addiction, we think of the moral model that someone is a failure or they lack faith or something is simply wrong with that person. So I wanted to bring this to light to let others know that since the 1950s, and that's a long time ago, science was able to prove that addiction is in fact a disease, and that's something that I just wanted to reinforce today. So here's some quick facts on drug addiction. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 19.7 million Americans, adult, ages 12 and older, battled a substance use disorder in 2017. Almost 74% of adults suffering from a substance use disorder in 2017 struggled with an alcohol use disorder. Now, I know that with the opioid use disorder, and it's an epidemic, and it's been on almost every single news channel, we've kind of dismissed other disorders, but I also wanted to speak to the prevalence of alcohol use disorder. About 38% of adults in 2017 battled an illicit drug use disorder. That same year, 1 out of every 8 adults struggled with both alcohol and drug use disorders simultaneously. And in 2017, 8.5 million American adults suffered from both a mental health disorder and a substance use disorder. So, like I mentioned earlier, the opioid epidemic, of course, when we think of substance use disorder, when we think of addiction, the first drug we think of is an opioid. It's hard not to think of it. It's been all over the news, social media, in the local paper, and it's really cost a lot of lives. The United States is in the midst of an opioid epidemic, which with overdoses killing nearly 47,000 people per year. An opioid can be a prescription drug, often referred to as a painkiller, or an illicit substance such as heroin. And then if you want to find out more about the opioid epidemic in Michigan, I will refer to resources as well. So in Michigan, in 2019, so that's not too long ago, opioid overdoses killed 1,768 Michiganders, an average of almost 5 people every single day. That's a lot of people. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the impact of the opioid epidemic in Michigan. Preliminary data shows overdose deaths likely increased in 2022. And we know that they have increased, and in fact, they have surpassed deaths from COVID-19. So I found this chart, and it has the top 10 counties in Michigan that are battling the opioid crisis, and Wayne County is leading the state in overdose rates. So the highest number of deaths that we're seeing that are opioid related are coming from our county, unfortunately, which is Wayne County. I wanted to touch a little bit about gender differences because this is speaking to women's health. Sex and gender differences in substance use disorders historically have been, so research has been mainly for males, treatment has been mainly for males. The historic gap in SUD, substance use disorder prevalence between men and women, characterized by higher prevalence in men, is narrowing worldwide. So what we're seeing today is we are seeing higher rates of substance use disorders in females as well. Versus decades ago, we've seen it predominantly in males. So I wanted to speak about the gender gap. Although overdose death is more common among men, the rate of increase in overdose death is rising more rapidly in women relative to men. And accordingly, this gender gap is narrowing. So again, not only are we seeing statistics increase in the prevalence of substance use disorder amongst women, we are also seeing the deaths increase as well, unfortunately. So female deaths. Deaths from prescription opioid overdoses among women increased 400,000% since 1999, compared with 265% among women. Again, which speaks to that gap really narrowing. A 400,000 increase is a huge increase, unfortunately. treatment of substance use disorders in women. Results of a 2007 review of gender and substance use disorder treatment entry, retention, and outcomes suggests that women in general were less likely to seek treatment for substance use disorders relative to men. But the majority of studies also found that women and men did not differ with respect to treatment, retention, or outcomes. Now we might think, why might a female be reluctant to seek treatment? And then my next slides will speak to that. So treatment seeking. There is some evidence that women present to treatment more quickly after substance abuse initiation and disorder onset. So sometimes women might reach out for help a lot sooner than men. Women represent approximately half of treatment admissions for prescription drug use disorders. And again, that speaks to that gap really narrowing in. Barriers to treatment. And unfortunately, working in the field of addiction, I see this a lot. Historically, women have faced specific barriers to substance use disorder treatment entry, such as greater perceived stigma, childcare responsibilities, and lack of family support. One more thing that I wanted to mention from my own experience, what I have seen is a lot of women are afraid to reach out and seek the support that they need because they are afraid that they may lose their children. And so that is something that I see very, very often. And it discourages women from getting the help that they need because they're afraid that, hey, if I get help, I'm getting help, but I might lose my kids. And that's a very hard decision to make. And as it relates to treatment options, so for opioid use disorder specifically, medically assisted treatment is primarily used for the treatment of addiction to opioids such as heroin and prescription pain relievers that contain opiates. The prescribed medication operates to normalize brain chemistry, block the euphoric effects of alcohol and opioids, relieve psychological cravings, and normalize body functions without the negative and euphoric effects of the substance use. One of the great things that has came out of the opioid epidemic is that if someone has an addiction, they are able to receive care in a doctor's office setting. You no longer have to strictly go to treatment in order to get care. So I know that there are a lot of addiction MD providers in Wayne County. They provide treatment in office. It's a normal office. It looks like you're going to your normal family doctor, and you walk in, you sign in, and you're treated as if you have any other condition. And that's one good thing that has come out of the opioid epidemic, is that the access to care is much easier than what it used to be. And that is all that I have for you today. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful job, Mrs. Mcgee. Very scary information to hear and feel. I kind of felt that resonate within me a lot. But again, thank you for that information because it's important that we know it. Last but not least, we have Kiana Mcgee Houston, who's going to present to us on self-care tips as well as child rearing practices. So please allow me to upload and we will get started. All right, Mrs. Mcgee Houston, you're up.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. A little bit about myself. My name is Kiana Mcgee Houston, and I am a licensed professional counselor, and I work and see clients in Dearborn and Southfield, Michigan. I graduated from Oakland University in 2011 with a master's degree in counseling. I also have 14 years of experience in child welfare, working with children and families that have experienced trauma within the foster care system. I'm also a nationally, well, not yet, go back. I'm also a nationally certified counselor, and I'm a certified clinical trauma professional, and I'm also trained in EMDR. So EMDR is a wonderful trauma therapy where the client does not have to talk through their trauma. They're able to do eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's an amazing technique, and it's really powerful with healing from trauma. But okay, so I'm going to be talking about mental health in children and self-care. So let's start off with, what does mental health look like? What is the definition of mental health? So mental health is overall wellness of how you think, regulate your feelings, and behave. What is a mental health illness? A mental health illness or mental health disorder is defined as patterns or changes in thinking, feeling, or behaving that cause distress or disrupt a person's ability to function. So mental health disorders in children looks like delays or disruptions in their developing age-appropriate thinking, behavior, social skills, and their regulation of emotions. It also affects their ability to function at home, in school, or other social situations, or even be able to get through the day. Here are some warning signs that you can look for, or red flags to look for with the kids. And they include persistent sadness that lasts 2 weeks or more, withdrawing from or avoiding social interactions, self-harm or talking about self-harm, talking about death or suicide, outbursts or extreme irritability, out of control behavior that can be harmful, drastic changes in mood, behavior, or personality, changes in their eating habits. So like if they're not eating enough food or maybe eating too much, loss of weight, difficulty sleeping, frequent headaches or stomach aches, difficulty concentrating, and also changes in academic performance, and that can include avoiding or missing school. Did you skip one? Yeah. Okay, so now what do you do if you see some of these warning signs? Well, you want to contact your child's doctor. Let them know what you're seeing, the behaviors, the warning signs that concern you. And your doctor can give you some feedback. Sometimes doctors will say, you need to take your child to counseling. Sometimes they'll prescribe medication. And you also want to talk to other people that are important in your child's life, like their teacher, other relatives that spend time with your children, and other caregivers who regularly see them that can speak to their behaviors and what's happening. How is mental illness in children treated? So it's treated with psychotherapy, which is also known as talk therapy or behavior therapy, with a counselor or a therapist. This may include playtime or games, as well as talking while they're playing. During psychotherapy, children and teens learn how to talk about their thoughts and their feelings, how to respond to them, and how to learn new behaviors and coping skills. Also medication. Your child's doctor may prescribe a medication such as a stimulant, an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, an antipsychotic, or a mood stabilizer as part of the treatment plan. But a lot of the times, the combination of the two is highly effective. Some common mental health conditions in children include the following. So anxiety. Anxiety disorders in children are persistent fears, worries, or anxiety that disrupt their ability to participate in normal activities such as playing, school, and typical age-appropriate situations. Some of these diagnoses include social anxiety, generalized anxiety, and obsessive-compulsive disorders. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Autism is a neurological condition that appears in early childhood, usually before age 3. The severity of ASD varies, and this is typically a child with this disorder has difficulty communicating and interacting with others. Depression and mood disorders. Now, this includes persistent feelings of sadness and loss of interest that disrupt a child's ability to function in school and interact with others. And under this, bipolar disorder results in extreme mood swings between depression and extreme emotional or behavioral highs that may be unguarded, risky, or unsafe. Eating disorders are defined as a preoccupation with an ideal body type, disordered thinking about weight or weight loss, and unsafe eating and dieting habits. Eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating can result in emotional and social dysfunction and life-threatening physical complications. Oppositional Defiant Disorder. So for this one, when children act out persistently so that it causes serious problems at home, in school, or with peers, they may be diagnosed with ODD. It usually starts before 8 years of age, but no later than 12. Children with ODD are more likely to act oppositionally and defiant around people that they know better. Conduct disorder. Kids who have conduct disorder seem to enjoy hurting people and doing bad things. These children are unkind and often violent and don't care about other people's feelings. And it may include extreme bullying, hurting animals, and lying for no reason, which are all signs of this disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, these children may have trouble paying attention and controlling impulsive behaviors. They may act without thinking about what the result will be, or they may be overly active. Now, although ADHD cannot be cured, it can be successfully managed with medication and even behavioral therapy, and the symptoms tend to improve as the child gets older. Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. Children with this disorder may have an obsessive compulsion when unwanted thoughts and the behaviors they feel they must do because of the thoughts that happen frequently, take up a lot of time, which is more than an hour a day, interfere with their activities, or make them very upset. These thoughts are called obsessions, and the behaviors are called compulsions. Now, post-traumatic stress disorder, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on because of the pandemic, a lot of trauma has occurred to the children. So post-traumatic stress disorder, this is an experience of severe stress, such as from an injury, from the death of a threatened death of a loved one, a friend, or from violence. This can be affected long-term. The child could experience the trauma directly or could witness it happening to someone else. When children develop long-term symptoms longer than 1 month from such stress, which are upsetting or interfere with their relationships and activities, they may be diagnosed with PTSD. Some of the symptoms for PTSD include reliving the event over and over in thought or in play, nightmares or sleeping problems, becoming very upset when something triggers the memory, lack of positive emotions, intense ongoing fear or sadness, irritability and anger outbursts, constantly looking for possible threats or being easily startled, acting helpless, hopeless, or withdrawn, denying the event happened or feeling numb, or avoiding places or people associated with the event. Because children who have experienced traumatic stress may seem restless, fidgety, or have trouble paying attention and staying organized, the symptoms of traumatic stress can be confused with symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And that also goes for adults too. Okay, the next slide. So how can I help my child cope? You play an important role as the parent or caregiver. First, learn about the illness. Maybe Google it, look up some information, find out as much as you can, because with knowledge, there's power. Consider individual or family counseling. As you work on yourself, the child can work on themselves, and then you guys can come together in family counseling to work on your communication, which is highly effective. Speak to your child's mental health professional. Ask questions. Find out what the treatment plan is. What are things you could be doing at home while they're going to therapy? What are things that you could be doing at home also? Enroll in trainings specific to what your child needs. Practice and explore your stress management techniques or your coping skills. Seek ways to relax and have fun with your child. And this is important too. Maybe play a game. Go for a walk, especially as the weather's starting to break. What are things that you can do to have fun with your child? It's very important. Along with this one, praise your child's strengths and abilities. Very important. This positive reinforcement and recognizing and praising your children goes a long way. Because if the children aren't getting praised for their good things, they're going to be seeking out negative attention. Work with your child's school for support. This one is very helpful too, because the school can also be a helpful place to give your child support, whether it's getting an IEP for certain needs and services, or even just maybe getting a little extra support from your teacher or the school counselor. Here are some facts about mental health disorders in US children. ADHD, anxiety, behavior problems, and depression are the most commonly diagnosed mental health disorders in children. Children ages 3 to 17, in the years 2016 to 2019, here are some percentages. 9.8% of the children had ADHD, 9.4% of the children had anxiety, 8.9% dealt with behavioral problems, and 4.4% of the children suffer from depression. Some of the conditions commonly occur together. Most common in the children with depression, 3 in 4 children with depression also had anxiety, and 1 in 2 had behavioral problems. So as we continue to look at facts, among adolescents ages 12 to 17 in the years 2018 to 2019, 15.1% had a major depressive episode, and 36.7% had persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. So that's a lot of teens dealing with depression and sadness. And so these statistics have just compounded since the pandemic. 18.8% seriously considered attempting suicide, 8.9% actually attempted suicide, and 2.5% made a suicide attempt that required medical treatment. Mental, behavioral, and developmental disorders begin in early childhood, with 1 in 6 US children aged 2 to 8 years old having a diagnosis. Mental health disorders change as children get older. Diagnoses of ADHD, anxiety, and depression become more common with age. Behavior problems are more common among children ages 6 to 11 than younger or older children. And factors related to children's mental health include the family structure. What does the family look like? Is it a single parent? Is it mom and dad? Is it grandparent? Is it an older sibling? Has a parent died? Do children feel safe in their family structure? In the community, what does the community look like? Does a child feel safe in the community, or is there a lot of trauma happening around them? And also healthcare. Sometimes there's not access to healthcare if there's a lot of poverty. If the child is living in poverty, there's no access to healthcare. Boys ages 2 to 8 were more likely than girls to have mental health challenges. For children living below 100% of the poverty level, more than 1 in 5 had a mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. Age and poverty level affected the likelihood of children receiving treatment. And during the pandemic, emergency room visits by children for mental health issues went up 30% for kids ages 12 to 17, and 24% for children ages 5 to 11. And that was just between March and October of 2020. So that has since increased because the children have been struggling from being homeschooled to being, isolated, all of that. All right, self-care. So how do you take care of yourself as you take care of your children? Let's look at the definition of self-care. The actual definition is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. You can practice this self-care over all the areas of your life. And it's so important that you do this because you can't pour from an empty cup. So how can you be there for your children if you're not there for yourself first? And as this is spread over the different areas, in the physical arena, you want to make sure you get enough sleep. You want to make sure you get exercise, maybe go walking, stretching, and eating right. Eating healthy plays a big role because you feel what you eat. Emotionally, you can do stress management techniques like the deep breathing, going to therapy, journaling. Journaling is huge, getting out your thoughts and your feelings. I often recommend anxiety writing, get out your anxious thoughts, get out your feelings and your thoughts. And this is also, journaling is really powerful for kids. Socially, that's creating healthy boundaries with people, Maybe pulling the plug on social media for a little bit, taking a break, maybe unplugging from social media, not watching the news as much, because that can increase the anxiety, and that has also been proven to increase depression. Spending time with your friends and family is huge for social self-care. Spiritual, maybe spending time alone, meditating, praying. Personal self-care, that includes maybe tapping into those hobbies you haven't pulled out for a while. Coloring, being creative, setting goals. Space, that would include maybe having a clean space, clean area surrounding you, making sure that it's safe, healthy, it's a good environment, and you feel safe and stable, because that's a big part in feeling good. Financially, that would include maybe budgeting, saving money, paying bills, setting boundaries within your finances, and working. Now, when you work, it's important to have self-care there too. That includes time management, maybe planning your day out, creating a to-do list at the beginning of the day so that you can try to follow it, prioritizing what's important versus what isn't, and what can carry over. That's really important. Also, making sure you take a break during the day, making sure you take a lunch during the day, because sometimes we'll work because we're trying to make that money and we forget to take a break and to take care of ourselves. So that's really important too. Okay, and then self-care for kids, what does that look like? So again, everything starts with you. So you are the expert in your child's life. So everything you do directly translates to your kids. So during the pandemic, I had 5 kids who were in school, and I'm a widow, so I was doing it by myself. So that's a lot. So it's trying to prioritize what you have to do to be okay, working, homeschooling, and then you're also making sure that your kids are okay. So the kids are taking their cues from you. So part of that is sharing your own feelings to encourage that self-awareness with your kids. Setting aside time for low stress activities or solo activities, teaching your kids how to breathe. That's important. With one of my kids, I would be like, okay, it's time to go breathe. Let's go do some breathing, because they're having a rough time. It helps because they're getting comfortable with it. And then you're teaching them also how to function as an adult. Maybe finding social groups that help them feel like they belong. Focus on articulating their feelings, such as I'm angry, I'm sad. Getting them to articulate those feelings is very powerful, because there's power in identifying the right feeling, and feelings and emotions have to keep moving. So even if you look at the word emotion, motion is part of the word, which means they have to keep moving. But what happens is things happen, they build, they stick, and they don't go anywhere. And so then they manifest in other ways, which is depression, anxiety, and all kinds of things, because they have to keep moving. But saying, I'm angry today, I'm sad today, get them to use their words is going to make a difference, and they're going to feel better. And again, the journaling. Journaling is big. I have my kids journal at least once a week or daily, depending on the day. And like, well, what do I journal about? Well, journal about good things. Don't just journal about bad things. Write about things that have happened, some of the things we're dealing with. Like one of my kids didn't get to play basketball this season because of the increased COVID cases. He was upset about that. Okay, let's journal about that. How are you feeling about that? My sister was diagnosed with cancer. How are you feeling about that? Write about, let's talk about that. There's things that the kids are dealing with that you have to process. Otherwise, they're not going to know what to do with it. And that's why the mental health statistics are steadily going up for kids, because they don't necessarily know how to deal with it. Practicing self-care for yourself to set the standard. So if your kids see you doing things that are calming and soothing, listening to music, going for a walk, sitting outside in nature, then your kids are going to say, oh, okay, well, mommy does that. So, or daddy does that, or grandma does that. So it must work. So let me try it, because then they're not going to feel, it's not going to seem as foreign to them. Encourage your child to focus on the moment. Now, this one is really important, because if you're focusing on the moment, you're not focusing on the past, which is depression, and you're not focusing on the future, which is anxiety. You're focusing on the current moment. In the current moment, hopefully there's peace. So if you can focus on right now, then that's a start. So you can do a deep breathing exercise. You can do a grounding technique together. those are all powerful things to help with bringing that anxiety down. And then you kind of reset. And also, again, cultivating interest and hobbies, you know, coloring, doing certain things that are fun. And as part of it, I mentioned I was a widow. So also part of that, you know, when my husband died, I got involved with sandcastles, which is a really great resource for grieving families and children. So they have groups for the parents. They have groups for the children, age appropriate. It's all been virtual since the pandemic, but this is a great resource for grieving families. And we've been able to continue to participate in that during the pandemic, and they've been having all kinds of activities. We went to the apple orchard. They do things for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, for the holidays, and it's really helpful. So even as mental health professionals, we need help too. So I actively participated in the grief groups for the parents, and it helped tremendously. And you learn a lot during the process, because everybody needs help and we all have to come together and work on things. But that's it for me. So hopefully I was able to share some things that were helpful and inspiring, and things little nuggets you could pull from my presentation as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Mcgee Houston. And I definitely appreciate your vulnerability and transparency, because you are absolutely correct. We all are going through something, and even the leaders and mental health professionals, we need help too. So thank you for reminding us of that. And thank you for such a wonderful presentation. So I know we are slightly over our scheduled time, but it's just 2 minutes, so please don't fret. We want to open up the floor for the Q&A portion, and I will honor the questions that have come before us who were sent in previously, and then we'll work our way through the chat to be able to see what questions we have to answer there. So I will start with the first question, and mental health professionals, please just jump in if you feel comfortable and can give us some credible information on this. Does light therapy work for depression? Can we speak to that today?
I can. I actually have clients who use the happy lights for themselves, and they are very effective. And it's like getting sunlight in through, like as you were getting in through your house. And so I have some clients that will put it directly behind them, so it looks like the sun's shining on them from the back, or they'll put it like directly in front of them so that they can feel just the light. So it does help, especially when people are dealing with seasonal depression. It does make a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Mcgee Houston. And to that participant who submitted that question, thank you. Our next question is, how do you deal with disturbing news coming in? Is there a panelist who can speak to that for us?
I can jump in on that one.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have disturbing information come in, it's very important to have an open dialogue about it and do some research if it's depending on what the disturbing, so I wish the person could have elaborate on what exactly that disturbing information is. But you want to have a dialogue and conversation about it. The worst thing in the world is to try to sweep something under the rug, especially for our children, because they see things, they hear things that we may not know that they are hearing and seeing. And so when they come to us with questions, it is really important for us to make sure that we have that open dialogue with them, give them the proper and correct information, and also seek out some sort of assistance to help walk our way through it. So if it's not something that you are accustomed to dealing with on your own, then again, there are mental health professionals who can help to alleviate some of the stressors that go along with traumas.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Well communicated and well said. Our next question, how can I use distraction to manage difficult thoughts or feelings? Mrs. Mackey, Mrs. Musa, would you like to speak to that if you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Say the question again one more time, I'm sorry.
No problem. Mm-hmm. How can I use distraction to manage difficult thoughts or feelings?
So distractions, the word distractions, usually you wanna bring things to surface. That way you want to acknowledge what's happening and then learn coping skills. Distraction in the long term, they're not really healthy because they're going to lead to avoidance and unhealthy situations. So actually bring what's going on, face it, deal with it, name it, figure out what's going on. I like what you guys are saying with the journaling, write it down, put it into perspective, and then figure out what the skills are that I want to apply.
Thank you, Mrs. Musa. Well communicated. And like I said, I'm also a mental health professional practicing for the past 10 years. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is like a Band-Aid to get to the root and addressing the problem. So thank you so much for communicating.
And that's why I name it. Teach your kids yourself. Name it.
Address it head on with support. You got it. You got it. And so I see here that there may be another question in the chat. Commissioner Dobb, can you please refer me to where I can find it?
Yeah, I'll actually read it for you.
Thank you.
This is a question specifically from Ms. Musa. You mentioned that mental health issues are more than just laziness. I found that depression or anxiety still feels like laziness when you're suffering. How can we convince ourselves that it's a real problem and that we need help?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, right? First, we have to find that compassion, that to say, recognize that these are my symptoms. The only language, the English language, when we look at symptoms, they look so simple, right? I feel tired. I feel lack of energy. I don't feel like leaving the house. These are such simple language, but we've used a simple language because we want the client to relate to it, that it is that simple. But when you're faced with 6 or 7 symptoms, your body is in battle, right? So you're battling. And laziness, or that feeling of lack of energy, is just one of them. And acknowledging, right? So number one, you have to acknowledge that these are my symptoms. Be compassionate towards yourself, be understanding, and seek support. So sometimes it's normal to be lazy. So there is the normal laziness, day-to-day activities, and then just recognizing the difference that my body is trying to talk to me. My body is trying to connect with me. And if you guys want to add anything else, please go ahead.
I think, Mrs. Musa, you summed it up wonderfully. Let's not stigmatize when your body needs a break, right? Listen to your body and honor your body because you need it and you only get one of them. So it's important to differentiate between laziness and just taking a break. I think you summed that up very well. Thank you.
And what's wrong with being lazy? I swear there's nothing wrong with it, right?
Unless somebody is hurt, harmed, or in danger, take your break.
Take your break.
Take your break. Thank you so much, Mrs. Musa. So, Commissioner Dobb, were there any other questions in the chat?
No, that was it for us for tonight. I know we're a little bit over time, so I think we can wrap it up.
Okay. If it is okay with this body, I see one participant saying that they have a question. I'll just honor this one question because we are over time, and I do apologize if anyone has to be missed today. Please raise your question. Feel free to unmute yourself. Ms. Kimberly Michaeloff. She's unmuting.
I believe she's trying to put it into words.
I see.
She wrote here that she's having a hard time phrasing it.
I see, but it has to do with prolonged grief. I'm seeing is in the chat.
Yes,
prolonged grief disorder.
Yeah, prolonged grief is another situation that we're dealing with, and really come to support. Acknowledge that you are grieving, because a part of healing is trusting your process and then coming to places. Reach out to groups, see who can be, who's around you, because as human beings, the more we talk, grief needs talk. It needs to come out. It needs to come out in a healthy way, whether you write it, whether you draw it, whether you put a letter together to the person you're grieving over, but it has to come out somewhere. And the best place that I've been running these groups, and I have a history of over 5 years in the practice of mental health. And many of my clients, they say the group has helped them like no other one. Because when you're together, there's this, we don't wish anyone to go through grief, number one, of course. But when we're together and we know that we're going through this together, there is this comfort. There's this comfort that I'm not alone. There's this comfort of somebody understands what I'm going through. And grief has no timeline. There's no such thing as grief happened 10 years ago. When you're grieving, it's real, it's right here, and it's in front of you. So that's why it becomes so, whether somebody passed away 10 years ago or yesterday, when you're grieving most of the time at the same time. So acknowledging that too.
Thank you, Mrs. Musa. I appreciate that. And I do want to say that, Ms. Kimberly, thank you so much for your questions. Some of it is very specified, I see, to the DSM-5. I think it may be good that someone or you reach out to one of our panelists. I believe Mrs. Musa would be happy to speak with you on a one-on-one level if you want to go in depth with prolonged grief. Is that okay with you, Mrs. Musa?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So to honor and respect everyone's time, in conclusion, thank each and every one of you for being here. We know that this information and the topic of mental health is not enjoyable, but like any other health condition, like any other need or support that we need for ourselves and for those that we love and care for, we have to address this head on, but it's best to do it from a winning position. You have to connect with people who can get you the skills, who can keep you conscious, who can keep you aware of what you can do to heal, grow, and survive. So thank you so much for being here. We love to have you here. We hope that we get the opportunity to do this again. Thank you so much to our 4 panelists for that robust, well-credible, well-articulated information. We hope that you all keep kicking COVID in the, I'll say, butt. And we hope that you all take care, stay safe, stay well, and have a pleasant evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.